Last year saw plenty of great roguelikes released to the delight of fans of the genre. We had platformers like Fury Unleashed, Neon Abyss, and Exit the Gungeon, which I personally wasn't so keen on. Then we had tactical card-based roguelikes such as the underrated Iris and the Giant, and finally the behemoth that was Hades, one of the best roguelikes to grace our consoles in the past few years. Now it looks like February is busting the big guns out and kicking off 2021 with the highly acclaimed Undermine finally making its way to the Nintendo Switch. Originally released on Steam in 2019, Undermine has you playing as a random miner who has been sent by Wizard Whitebeard into the undermines beneath the hub area to investigate the source of recent earthquakes. Armed with only a pickaxe, you'll be sending miner after miner into the depths, progressing further each time, as you collect forgotten relics, dodge deadly traps, and battle against all kinds of critters and creatures. Now, many people have been waiting a long time to get their hands on the game, but does Undermine deserve the praise it's received? And can the Switch version live up to expectations? Well, in this review, I aim to answer those questions. My name is Luke, and welcome to Star or Shovelware. So as we hit the title screen, we see an endless line of miners, or peasants as they're known in game, diligently hopping the way down into a lovely dark mineshaft. And this is how our game begins, as we take control of one of these miners and find ourselves in the game's hub area. Now this place looks pretty empty to start with, but will soon be populated by various NPCs you encounter throughout your journeys, each of which offers their own unique wares and services. For now though, the only living soul here is a grumpy old shit known as Arcanos, the Archmage, and he sends us on a journey to investigate the source of some earthquakes, and tosses us the key to open up the trapdoor leading into the mines. Before we go though, we make sure to grab a blue journal which is invaluable, as it's populated by all the enemies, items, relics and familiars that we encounter on our journeys. Now, so far as storyline goes, as with most roguelikes, there isn't really an awful lot of depth or explanation given, and Undermine is more focused around the gameplay loop. However, the many characters we encounter during our travels do offer snippets of dialogue to breathe a little life into the world. So our first delve into the mines drops us into a tutorial area where we learn the basics by following the direction of signs in each room. Here we learn how to jump pits with the B button and drop bombs to blow up rocks with the A button, and we also get to take down a few simple critters by swinging our pick with the Y button or tossing it like a boomerang with the R button. Interacting with objects in the world requires a tap of the X button, and this allows us to search skeletons for loot, open chests, or locked doors with keys. It's worth noting though that you're actually able to rebind any of the controls, and this really helps if, like me, you keep hitting A to interact with stuff and instead ended up dropping bombs and blowing yourself up. So after the brief tutorial, we're left to work out the rest of the game on our own, and trust me, there's plenty to learn in Undermine, but I won't be going into too much depth in this review, and I'll just cover a few of the more common occurrences to give you a bit of an idea of what to expect. Now, after playing Undermine for around 15 hours, to me the game very much feels like what you'd expect if you made The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past into a roguelike, as several of its features are very similar. Instead of swinging a sword, you swing a pickaxe, instead of throwing a boomerang, you throw a pickaxe, and each run sees you collecting bombs to blow stuff up, keys to unlock chests and doors, and a plethora of potions to chug down. Now, your main objective on each floor is to work your way through the rooms in order to find a trapdoor leading to the next floor. Each floor is randomly generated with a handy minimap in the bottom corner keeping track of the rooms that you visit, and while a couple of room types do have icons indicating the contents, such as shops or relic rooms, for the most part you never know what you're going to find in a room. You could, for example, find a bunch of enemies in a room, whereby the doors will lock behind you and won't open again until all enemies are defeated, or you could find a nice little chest room offering up a bunch of lovely items or gold, or a shrine providing you with a blessing. As with games like The Binding of Isaac, in Undermine you'll regularly encounter similar room layouts, but the enemies and contents within them are always random. When it comes to the game's enemies, there's some great variety ranging from near harmless rats, bouncing jellies and irritating flies who spit at you, to hulking blue behemoths that charge at you, armoured soldiers, and mages who heal their allies or cast spells at you. Unlike other roguelikes though, where gaining power and upgrading your equipment eventually makes the early areas of the game a pushover, Undermine tries to keep things challenging by throwing new variants of old enemies at you and giving them more powerful attacks. Now, in order to counteract this equilibrium and gain the upper hand, strewn throughout each floor you'll find a variety of helpful items and temporary upgrades in the form of relics and blessings that last for your current run. On most floors you'll find relics within relic rooms, and these offer a wide range of effects, many of which synergize with one another to create powerful combinations. Some relics offer simple health or damage upgrades, or transform your bombs giving them new effects, such as bombushkas which hatch mini bombs when they detonate, or gold bombs which spit out showers of gold. And then there are others which change how your ranged attacks work, causing your pickaxe to ricochet from enemy to enemy, or those which affect your melee attack, increasing its range or swing speed. In all, there are around 150 relics to find in the game, which is far too many to cover in this review, and while you will encounter a lot of the same relics to begin with, you will find blueprints to unlock new ones, opening up new combinations. Now, in addition to relics, there are also blessings, and these upgrade things like your health, attack speed and damage, but these do come at a cost, as taking on blessings from shrines also give you curses with a wide variety of negative effects. These include things like reductions to certain stats, increases in shop prices, or causing you to randomly teleport when hit, and these stack up quite quickly, so you do need to keep them in check by purging curses when you can with potions or items. I personally thought the blessings and curse system was a very clever game mechanic, as it offered you plenty of risk vs reward decisions to make in each run. So as you work on progressing deeper and deeper into the Undermines, your secondary objective will be to earn currency, and this comes in two main forms. Firstly, you have gold, which are these lovely yellow nuggets which pilferers try and steal as soon as they hit the ground, and then you have these purple gems known as thorium, which is often found in blue chests alongside blueprints and recipes. Gold is used to purchase temporary items within dungeons, as well as permanent character upgrades in the hub. And as before, there are a ton of upgrades to buy, but one of the most important ones are bag upgrades, which will allow you to retain more of your gold each time you die. Thorium, on the other hand, is used to craft new potions, relics or blessings which then appear at random in the dungeons, or hatch new familiars, which are creatures that follow you around dungeons offering aid in many different ways. Now, although I've played the game for around 15 hours, I feel like I've only just scratched the surface of Undermine. We would be here all day if I were to cover all of the game mechanics, and I'd also feel like I'd be spoiling a lot of the surprises which make Undermine a great roguelike. The last thing that I want to say though is that after beating the dungeon's 4th floor, you then have to beat a boss before you can continue onward. So far I've only actually managed to get to the 2nd dungeon boss, but from my experience and the many hours of Undermine gameplay that I've watched, you can expect challenging fights from each of these bosses. There are 7 main bosses in the game as well as a few mini bosses, but unlike other roguelikes, these bosses don't respawn until you've beaten them all and ascend, which is essentially the game's version of New Game Plus. Overall, Undermine is quickly becoming one of my favourite roguelikes on the Nintendo Switch. Not only does it look and sound fantastic, it also runs very well, and I've only experienced a few minor frame rate issues when visual effects or sprite count got a bit hectic. The game's controls are great on the Switch and have translated well from PC, and I really love the sheer amount of variety the game has to offer while not feeling overwhelming or overly random, which is one issue that some games in the genre have a tendency to suffer from. I also like the way in which enemies are upgraded to maintain the challenge and keep things fresh, and another great gameplay feature even gives you the option to skip earlier dungeons after you've beaten the boss and obtained the dungeon map, though this does sacrifice a lot of the upgrades that you would have obtained from these. If I were to pick any negatives about the game, I would say that the selection of bosses are quite limited, and owing to the fact that they don't respawn until you ascend, the majority of your playtime is going to be spent working through rooms and floors. Other than that, I think that it would have been better if each ascension would have added new bosses and more powerful items and artefacts, as I can see this gameplay loop potentially becoming a little stale after several iterations. In all though, Undermine is shaping up to be one of the best roguelikes on the platform, and while I've tried to keep things relatively simple in this review, hopefully I've provided enough information for you to decide whether or not to pick up the game. When it comes to a rating, I'm going to be giving Undermine a very strong 4 out of 5 stars. While it doesn't quite receive full marks from me due to it not quite offering the same level of replayability as games like Hades or Isaac, Undermine is still a fantastic addition to the genre, and anyone who's a fan of roguelikes should definitely consider giving it a go. You can pick up Undermine from the UK Switch eShop for £15.49 or from the US eShop for $19.99. Alternatively, the game's also available on PlayStation, Xbox and Steam. And that about does it for this review of Undermine. Don't forget to hit that like button if it helped you out, let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you want to see future reviews that I upload every few days. For now though, I just want to thank you all once again for watching, and until next time, take care of yourselves and game on.